Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. And today we're not going to be talking about any roads because there aren't really any around us. Today we're going to be talking about emergencies. And by the end of this, you should know multiple ways to build a shelter, purify water, cook food, start a fire, all of the stuff you need to survive in an emergency. We are going to open up our bags. I have Keith with me, so you're going to see what people who are outdoorsy and who do this stuff a lot have in their bags. We're also going to open up some of those pre-packed bags that you can find in a store and take a look inside of them and see if they really are everything you need to survive for 72 hours. Okay, so what you're looking at now is the contents of my EDC kit. EDC, everyday carry. This is the bare minimum that you need to have. You have rope for snares. This actually folds out into a knife. You have a striker, a handsaw, multi-tool whistle, water purification tablets. The candle is a trick candle, so if it blows out, it'll relight by itself. You have a little compass. This is a fishing kit. Hook, line, sinker. You have a survival card. The applicatorless tampon is good for kindling. Aside from that, if you have one, you have none. That's a duplicate of it. Okay, so what you're seeing now is the contents of my bag laid out. Alright, so you see food and water. You have an MRE, utensils, life straw, and sawyer. You have a cooking implement. You have a knife with paracord around the handle to attach to a stick to make a spear or a gig. That is a laundry bag, the white thing there on the left. That's for using as a cast net or something like that. See the two little containers that say SOS, those are my EDC kits. You see a radio for transmitting and then another one for receiving. See the life straw cup. So that is food and water with some additional stuff. Moving over, you see a whole bunch of stuff to create fire. You also see that there's duplicates of a lot of stuff because if you have one, you have none. It will break, you will lose it. Alright, we have duct tape, rope, mylar tent / blanket, and a poncho. We have knife, bag, first aid kit, big first aid kit that's more for trauma, couple of compasses, and then we of course have the knives and other implements, tools and stuff like that. Okay, so somebody might be curious as to why I have two EDC kits. Let's say you end up out in the woods and there's somebody with you and they're going to venture off on their own. They have that with them in case they get separated.
All right, so this is what I keep in my bag. My bag, it may look very expensive. It is not. I got it at a military surplus store for about $9.99, I think the tag said. So you can shop around and find some of this stuff more affordable. But to get you started, again, this is for the region that I live in, but I have my water purification, my water filter, my aqua tabs. I have a way to start fire here, a fire striker, a lighter, a candling device, which is my flashlight to give me instant light so I don't have to light a fire for it. And it also clips to the bill of a hat so that you can see in front of you and have your hands free. I have my cutting tool, which is a German Army issue Swiss Army knife. And I have my other cutting tool. This is the Mora Garbird. Most of y'all may have seen this in like bushcraft videos or something. This here's my compass, again, for land navigation. I've got a roll of Gorilla Tape, that's for patching, making tools, anything I may need to do with it. Here are backups for all of this. You know the old saying, one is none and two is one, so always have backups. I keep 3 of these black contractor bags in my bag, mainly for ground cloths, but I also use one inside of my bag as waterproofing to keep all my gear dry. I carry a couple of liters of water with me. I carry a canteen, a military issue canteen with a metal cup so that I could boil water if I need to. And here's my Grail water filter. This here is like a complete just comfort item that I have in my bag. It's comparable to a whoopee. If you don't know what a whoopee is like the greatest thing the military ever invested its money in and gave a GI. They call it a poncho liner, but it's a multi-purpose blanket, sleep system, anything that you really want it for, it's great for. This here is improved upon as a civilian model because it has a hood built into it, so you can actually wear it underneath your poncho to keep you warm in colder conditions if it was raining. It's also zips up into a sleeping bag on its own, unlike a regular whoopee. But it's a really great item that I have with me. I have my food. I've got, again, in the summertime here in Florida, man, you start sweating your butt off. You need to replace those electrolytes. So I have electrolyte replacements, gummies. I have meals, and I have snack bars, which are Cliff Bars to give you calories to keep you going. Then I have, right here is a bag of clothes. I keep these because maybe if you live in the city and you have a uniform you have to wear, or you're a woman and you have to wear dress shoes or something like that, you may want to keep an extra pair of shoes to change into that are more comfortable for walking long distances, or keep you a change of clothes in case you have a uniform you have to wear. You may not want to walk 30 miles in a suit back home, or in chef pants and non-slip shoes. So it's something to think about that I actually keep in mind. My sleep system also includes my paracord and my bank line here, and my ripstop nylon poncho. It's a military style. And I don't want to forget about my individual first aid kit. And mainly, the major part of that is this, because I am allergic to yellow flies, and yellow flies are everywhere in this area. So it's great to have that to take the sting out.
Okay, so now we're going to open up a couple of those bags that we bought. When we selected these, we didn't look at the contents, because the idea behind them is that they're pick them up and go. They're pre-packed with everything that you need. So we're going to open it up and see if they match up to the bags that we have. If they contain food, water, fire, shelter, knife, first aid kit. That's what you have to have. Anything else is a luxury. Should be noted, none of this is sponsored. We bought this stuff, or it's stuff that we hadn't opened yet, whatever. But none of the brands that we mention in this have anything to do with this video. Okay, so this is one of the brands that we'd heard of. Again, we didn't look at the contents. So let's see if it has everything that we need. This one is made by ReadyWise. All right, so decent backpack. Now, a lot of people want the ones that look like they're military. It's not always the best idea. If you're looking to blend in, it may be better to have a civilian looking one. Okay, so we have emergency blanket, so shelter, that looks like a bio bag, camp stove, fuel for the camp stove, water purification, so we have food, water, shelter, little first aid kit, fire, matches, very limited. Looks like a whistle, compass, signal mirror, flint, so fire striker. Pack of cards, masks, dust masks, food, tissue, flashlight that looks like it's powered by squeezing it, some water pouches, and some basic survival food. So we have food, water, water, fire, shelter, first aid kit, no knife. No knife in this. This isn't bad. Given the price, I want to say this one was like 70 bucks. For what you have here, it's worth the money. Is it everything you need though? No. No. It's a base. It's something to start with. Okay, so this is one made by Camillus, which is a knife company. It is a 3-day survival kit. All right. Cool little molly bag. Looks a lot like my first aid kit. Inside, we have a flashlight, orange poncho, so shelter, mylar blanket, shelter, heat factory, like hand warmers, water pouches. Oh, Coast Guard approved rations. These taste horrible. More water, Chemlight, a glow stick, and a first aid kit, minimal first aid kit. So we've got food, water, shelter, no fire, and no knife from the knife company. This one was only like 30 bucks. The contents of it, yeah, I mean, that's $30 worth of contents. But it is nowhere near what you need. Okay, so this is a 2-person, 3-day tornado emergency prepared kit put out by First Aid Only, the name of the company. I want to say this one was like 60 bucks as well. Okay, so emergency blanket, shelter, poncho, shelter, tissues, tape, shelter, tissues, a water bag, collapsible water bag. You can fill this up. Okay, gloves, emergency wind-up flashlight, AM/FM radio, flashlight, winds up and charges your mobile phone. Little first aid kit. More of those Coast Guard approved rations. A whole bunch of water. Cold pack, first aid. A couple of glow sticks. Some dust masks. Bio bags. A Leatherman. Well, not a Leatherman, a multi-tool. With a knife. Okay. Water. Okay, there's a bunch of single-dose medicines in here. We've got antiseptic wipes, non-aspirin, towelettes, ibuprofen, a couple of tubes of toothpaste, another blanket, emergency blankets, shelter, little baby playing cards, eye wash, more rations, toothbrush, looks like a whistle, hand warmers, goggles. So this looks like it has everything except for fire. This isn't great. It's not perfect. But this is, out of the ones we've seen, this is the best. That's cool. And again, this one was like 60 bucks. The name of this is First Aid Only Tornado Emergency Preparedness Kit. If this had fire, it would be the only one we've looked at so far that actually covered everything you need. Okay, so this was advertised as a 3-day survival kit. It doesn't even have a brand. And honestly, I was just dying to see what was in a $20 kit. Okay, Mylar blanket. Looks like a survival bracelet that has a compass, a whistle, and these normally actually have a fire starter right here, a striker, but this one is defective. The slot for it is there, but the piece of metal is not. Flashlight, a carabiner, little saw, knife, whistle, survival card, which one it is. So this has a bunch of little tools on it. Kind of useful. I've got one in my bag somewhere. Compass, ballistic pin, and a light. No, not even close to everything you need, but totally worth 20 bucks as far as the contents. So there you go.
Okay, so you probably noticed that Keith's bag and my bag are pretty similar. We use different lists, but they end up with the same items. Those bags that are built like that, are generally for people who have a little bit of a skill set. So they don't have to lug everything in. At the end of the day, knowledge weighs nothing. The more you can learn, the less you're going to have to carry. Now, as far as the pre-packed bugged out bags that we bought, we will basically be giving those to people without addresses, people who can actually use them. Okay, so if you were to ask somebody who's outdoorsy, what you need to put in your bag. One of the first things they're going to tell you is that you need a knife. And then they're going to make a recommendation. Because you're asking somebody who is outdoorsy, they're going to use their knife a lot. They're going to make a recommendation based on that fact. This is one of the least expensive pocket knives I own. It's like $50. It's a Spyderco. Keith,
Yeah.
what kind of knife do you have?
Mora Garber.
$70?
Yeah, 70, 80.
Okay. Because they're meant to last. If you're doing this for emergency scenarios, and basically this is going to be a bag that gets put together and thrown in a closet and never used, you probably don't need to do that. There are kits that you can pick up at big box stores or order online. This one, made by Camillus, has a machete, an e-tool, and a little saw in it along with a match. This one, which is Ozark Trail, that's a Walmart brand. Little hatchet, field knife, machete, flashlight, striker, paracord, kind of stuff. You get both of those for the cost of my pocket knife. Realistically, these are going to work. Are they going to hold an edge as long? No. Are they as cool because of the name? No. But they're going to work. They're going to serve their function during an emergency. And realistically, you're probably not planning on spending months out in the woods at a time. So just weigh that in mind when you get that knife recommendation and then you see the price tag on it. Okay, so Keith has been gathering firewood this whole time, so we're going to see what he's got and how we're doing.
All right, guys, when you're processing your firewood, you want to start by breaking it down into small pieces and separating it into piles. Your first pile you want to be pencil lead and pencil sized pieces. Your next pile you want to be finger and thumb sized pieces. And then after that, you'd want like wrist size or larger pieces in a pile. And if they're any bigger than that, really you want to split them so that they'll burn well. All right, so this is kind of the configuration that you want to set your kindling up into. Again, your very fine kindling to start. Before you add your bird's nest, before you start trying to set fire to your tinder, you want to set it up this way. And I'll show you how to do it in a minute. But the reason is you want to point this like a V into the wind so that this acts as a shield. If the wind's blowing towards you, then you would have a bundle on top to roll over once you get your tinder started so that it will have fuel to start. Keys to a fire are three things. You need fuel, oxygen, and heat. So to build it, you're going to take your extra fine kindling here, and you're going to get it into three bundles, kind of form you a V here, so you have a place to get your tinder started out of the elements. And your third, again, will go up here towards the front so that whenever it starts, you were able, again, you would be over on this side, and you would pull this over on top once it got going to keep the fire going. Then you would add more fine tinder, then you would add your finger and thumb size, and keep adding to between those two until it gets hot enough that you could add the thicker wood to keep your fire going. All right, here in Northwest Florida, we're kind of lucky. About year round, there's this stuff called deer moss that just grows everywhere on the ground, and it's pretty much free tinder. So I'll show you how easy it is to get you a fire going. I say that, and my match blows out. And when you burn this stuff, I mean, I would be careful. People have been known to accidentally set areas of woods on fire because this stuff goes up pretty fast, as you can see. And again, I just picked that up off the ground a moment ago. All right, guys, so we're going to show you how to use a ferrocerium rod and striker. When you get these things, they have this black coating on it. You got to use the striker, the steel striker, to get that off first before you can really get that spark going. Like I said, in the back end, it comes with two of these little tufts of tinder. I'm going to stick this down in here with my deer moss. I'm going to try to get this going real quick. And usually you want to hold the striker in place and pull your ferrocerium rod away so that it showers the sparks instead of trying to shove them off. how quick that took. Get your moss going. Go ahead and roll your twigs and sticks up over.
Man, you got that on one try, and I forgot to hit record.
Did you?
No, I missed one.
Thanks. Again, you can sit here and just keep feeding it. Wait till it gets bigger and hotter. Get you a little more of a cold bed down in here. And then you would start adding these. But again, that's going to be another few minutes away before we could get hot enough to do that. Throw those on, and you ain't got to do it all fancy. People talk about doing a lay for a fire. Other than that first setup, you know, they say fire loves chaos. So just throw that stuff on there.
Who says that?
Everybody.
Never heard that before in my life. Fire loves chaos. It sounds good though.
Now that's a fire.
Okay, so now we're going to go get some water. Looks delicious. Okay, so this is the Life Straw cup. It has the normal Life Straw right here inside of it. And this is the easiest way. This way you don't have to put your face down in the water. You take the cup, easy, put it in the water so you don't disturb all of the sediment. Theoretically, you don't really have to, but it would be cool if your water wasn't grained to begin with. Slide that in, screw it back on, give it just a second, and then that's all there is to it. As far as ease of use, this is my favorite.
Yeah, this is Sawyer Mini. It comes with easy to use instructions. It tells you right here, it filters down to 0.1 microns. Again, that doesn't take out chemicals, and it does pretty much get all sediment and most bacteria and stuff that would be large from coming in. It's not going to kill anything, of course, but it comes, when you buy it, the Sawyer Mini here, it comes with this little straw that you can put on the end, or my bad. Again, pay attention to the arrow, Keith. The straw goes onto this end because this is the way that the water's supposed to flow, this way. You can use this to get down and suck the water out if you needed to. And it comes with this little squeeze pouch that you can fill with water. I'm gonna kind of bear it up a little bit first so that you can get in there easier. Have to get that water in there. Take that straw off, and as you can see right here on the bottom side of this, there are threads. The threads fix into right there. You just roll the bag up, and that's what filters. Give it a second. See, it started running clear now. And you got some purified water there, or purified filtered anyways. Another quick thing to note about the Sawyer Mini is that if this bag wasn't enough, or you wanted to keep it, but you needed more water, it will fit on most standard threads. This here is a smart water bottle, but it would do the same thing. You would fill it with water, you would turn it upside down, and you would give it a squeeze. If you wanted to be a little safer, make sure that you were killing anything that was in there, you could use aqua tabs. Now aqua tabs here, you would do the same thing you just did with that little thing, except for this time we'd fill it all the way with water. You know? And then you would take, go ahead and pull them out so you can see what they actually look like. Again, you would want this whole container filled with water. This is a 1 liter bottle. This is meant to actually purify 0.75. So, or 0.75 liters. So you would put that little tablet in there, and this would be much fuller. But again, you would want to shake it up. The instruction says do this for about 10 minutes. Keep mixing it up, and it would be fuller. But once you do that, you mix it up for about 10 minutes, then you would let it sit for about half an hour to purify. Once that's done, then it would be no simple thing to go ahead and hook this up, have purified filtered water while you're out in the field. This here is kind of a luxury item in my bag. It's a secondary water filter that I carry with me. And this is pretty pricey. It's about $90. It's called the Grail GeoPress. And how it works is this. It has this little spout here for you to drink out of course. But you take this loose, you slide this out, and your filter's at the bottom. And you would fill your cup up, and this is about a quart to a liter. And you don't have to fill it all the way up, but you could fill it way fuller than I just did. You press the filter in like that, then you put your body weight against it. It will slowly filter your water, and it works a lot quicker than some other things, especially if it's gravity fed. So you do the GeoPress, press it down.
Okay, so when it gets to the subject of water filtration, purifying water, there are two names that always come up, LifeStraw and Sawyer. There are differences in what they filter, but the main difference as far as the reason that most people choose one over the other is length of service and ease of use. LifeStraw, whole lot easier to use. Sawyer, more complicated, but while this will filter 100,000 gallons of water, this one will filter 1,000. That's your big trade-off with it. Your main thing when deciding between them should really be about how long you plan on using it, as long as the filtration concerns aren't applicable to you. So take a look at the differences in the effectiveness of the filters and then determine length of service.
So when you're setting up your shelter, what you're really looking for is an area that's on the higher ground. As you can see, this is going downhill. We're about the highest point here besides where the camera is. You want to find a structure or two trees far enough apart that you could build your shelter in between it. And you want to look up and make sure there are no what they call widow makers, any branches or anything that could fall down, or dead trees leaning over that could fall in the middle of the night or in a high wind and kill you while you're out here. Again, you want to make sure that the area where you are building your shelter is free of limbs and debris, like right here. So we would go ahead and clear this area out first, of course. Make sure there was nothing down here on the ground. Make sure it was super cleaned out. And then we would set up our ridge line. And I have this set up with a quick release. So again, you start at waist height or knee height, depending on how low you want your shelter. Put you a little stake in there like that and build you a quick release. And then tie off to the other side of your tree. And most of y'all know how to do a trucker's hitch. So that's what we want to do here. And we're going to tie off. I'm not going to make this look all pretty. It is going to look nice. Got that excess. Now, once you got your ridge line good and secure, then you would affix your pressing knots. I showed you a minute ago how to do one and affix it. If you already have these fixed to your ridge line, again, this makes it so much easier whenever you are in an emergency situation and you do need to build shelter. So let's go ahead and put our other one on. Again, it's looped through the inside once, come back through a second time. Again, they just keep falling right inside of each loop into the center until you got all three. And again, 3 is all you need. The way we're setting up our shelter, get our I'd be using as my ground cloth here. Again, all these vines here are not optimal for doing this. But you'd want an area where you could set this down so you could stay dry. Or again, you could fill it with pine straw, dead leaves to fluff this up and make it a little more comfortable. And so, next part of the shelter is the poncho, the main part, the roof. We'll take it long ways and we're going to drape it over our ridge line. Find us 2 more sticks real quick to make us some little toggles out of, just so we can affix this. Again, I'll show you real quick. Take that, you stick it through right there. Put your toggle in there. Keep that cinched right there for a moment, and really tighten it up with this side, or the opposite side from where you started. Again, these are quick little things that you can have set up that will make it so much easier if you do have an emergency situation and you do know what you're doing, and you do have your gear set up. So again, got our toggle here on this ridge line. We're just going to pull that tight. You see how tight that stays? Pull it right close down. And then we would move to the back side. And that is where these stakes come in handy. Again, these are like little 70-cent stakes that you can get at Walmart or anywhere. So that you don't have any of this debris in the way. You don't want to puncture a hole in your stuff. We'll bring that back real tight here and use your stake to pin it down to the ground, all the way down. Same thing to the other side. And then for me, like I said, I always carry 3. One for right in the middle. Now with that being said, again, get my ground cover, slide it up in here. Little poncho step away, move these vines over. Again, now you got a shelter. I am 6'3", and I fit up underneath this comfortably to stay out of the rain, stay dry. Again, these vines aren't optimal, but again, if you're in an emergency situation, this will keep you dry. This will keep you out of the elements. This will keep you sheltered. So, there you go. All right, the first step in setting up your shelter is setting up your ridge line. And the easiest way to do that is to set up a quick release. And how you do that is you take your cordage, whatever you're using, whether it's 550 paracord or bank line or anything else, and you want to make what's called a bowline knot. So what you're going to do is take the end of your cordage, you're going to make a loop and pinch it. Then you're going to insert it into your loop and let it dangle back out. You're going to let it wrap around the piece that was in your other hand, and you're going to pinch it to that loop in the middle. And when you do that, you're going to pull tight, and that makes a loop with this little tail in the middle, and that is a bowline knot. So when you're setting up your ridge line, you want to set it at waist height or knee height, depending on what kind of concealment you're looking for or how much coverage from the elements you're needing. So I'm going to set this one at about waist height. So to begin with, the quick release on this would be to bring your knot around, slide your slack through a little bit like that, a loop, pine straw to here, and then that acts as a quick release so that when you pull that stick out, you can get out of the way quickly, get moving. Next step is to make your pressing knots. What you want to do is take a piece of your cordage about as long as from the tip of your middle finger to your elbow. When you do that, you're going to do 2 overhand knots, and what you're going to do is called a fisherman's knot, where you do an overhand knot. You may remember how to do these when you were a kid, when you did friendship bracelets. Do those little knots right there on the end, and then you just pull them together, and it's secure. That is your pressing knot for affixing your shelter to your ridge line. Now how we're going to do that is we take our knot here, and we go 1 time through, 2 times through, and then a 3rd time, just 3 times. And you bunch it up here on your ridge line. What we'll do is whenever I affix my shelter here to the grommets, my corners, this will slip through, and I will put me a little toggle in there. When you do that, it allows this to cinch up tight. Hi guys, in addition to the way I showed you how to just set up your shelter to keep you out of the elements, another way you can set it up is in a bivvy style, which is more of a traditional triangle tent shape where it splits the tarp right down the middle. And if you do that, it makes it easier to conceal where you're camping if you need that kind of concealment. So if you do that, make sure that you use foliage that blends in. If you're using dead pine needles to cover up your shelter and everything around it is live pine needles, it's going to stand out. So try to use the native foliage around you to blend everything in.
Okay, so it's time to eat.
Yeah,
Chef
Stroganoff.
Chef Keith here is about to get to work for us. What do you got? Mountain House?
Yeah, Mountain House. It's a 2-serving meal. I think it says 2 servings per container, and it's beef stroganoff with noodles and a savory cream sauce with mushrooms and onions, freeze-dried. So the instructions say that we need to have hot water to activate this and get it going. It's just add hot water ready in 10 minutes. No extra cleanup. 12 grams of protein. The instructions call for 1 2/3 cup. This right here is about 2 cups. I'm gonna eyeball it. I'm using the water that I purified in my grilled geopress from down at the lake earlier. Again, usually I'd wait for there to be a little better cold bed here, but I'm kind of losing light and I'm getting hungry. So I'm gonna sneak down here. I'm gonna finagle that in right there by that fire. On the coals, not right up underneath the flames or anything like that. I got it right up on the coal bed, and pretty soon it'll start boiling. When it starts boiling, do not reach in there and grab it. You need to have something to take it off the fire with.
As always, when dealing with fire, be careful. You know, be a responsible person, adult. Don't try this at home and all of that stuff.
Okay, so our water started boiling. Fast little moving bubbles there. I'll go ahead and tear this off. It's got a little tear right here area and a little Ziploc zipper on the inside. And use this glove here to take this hot water off. We don't want to burn ourselves.
I'm making sure I'm not sitting in ants again.
Again, go ahead and add that hot water in there. And you can hear that hitting that side of that hot stainless steel cup right there. Finish sealing it up and let her sit for 10 minutes. Then in 10 minutes we will have supper. There's my handy dandy little spoon. Sit down and relax for a little bit.
Oh,
There's my fire pushing stick there.
why?
Long day, sir.
Hey, you know what's fun?
What's that?
Nobody's going to try to sneak up on us tonight.
That is fun. Too bad it is in a cloudless night.
Right.
Sleep out here underneath the stars.
Oh, man.
And that's why it's always need to have your shelter built before it gets dark.
Okay, so can you think of anything we missed while filming?
Anything we missed while filming? Food, water, fire, shelter.
Don't know that I mentioned in any of it. If you notice, both of us, our first aid kits, separate from the bag, from the main bag.
Yep.
Because if there is an emergency, you don't have to lug all of your stuff to get there. I've got the little baby one in my bag, and then I have this, which is a trauma kit, which is basically the same thing you have.
Yeah.
It's an IFAC. You can get them from eBay or wherever. It has It is for more serious injuries. This is the one that you buy and you spend a decent amount of money on and hope you never actually have to open it.
It's like something that applying pressure isn't going to fix.
Right. Oh, man.
Nice end to it. Long day though. Sit here by the campfire.
Right.
Eat some hearty beef stroganoff here in a few minutes. See that titanium cup's already cooled off enough now. If I can touch it, and I can hold the handles. And it was just, again, you heard it sizzling against the side of that cup.
Yeah, they might have been able to see it, but it was right on the edge. I'm not sure. Carrie will fix that somehow.
Thank you, Carrie. She's magic.
Oh, man. So realistically, we got everything set up in 2, maybe 3 hours of actually doing it. And then if we wanted to, theoretically, we could stay here for weeks. We don't want to.
Right. Yeah, you kind of, well, I mean, theoretically you could, but if you were having to track your own game or anything like that, you'd probably have to keep moving. They'd get used to your scent and scare off, or you may draw attention if you hang out in a place too much.
I'm not sure I mentioned it. Okay, so we didn't do anything with snaring. I think I mentioned this earlier, but I'm not sure, so I'll go over it again. We didn't do anything with snaring and setting the snares up, although we have the stuff to do it, mainly because neither one of us is really wanting to eat squirrel tonight. But aside from that, just remember that mouse traps, there are things that are a little bit more technologically advanced than what was available in the Stone Age that are a whole lot easier to use. Snaring and stuff like that, it is impressive in the sense of it's a cool skill to have. You can do it with absolutely nothing. But I mean, mouse traps aren't cheap, or aren't expensive. So, anyway.
And it's easier to take out your MRE and put a little dab of peanut butter on a mouse trap and set it out there and catch you something for the next day. Or have something to use as bait for the next day when you need to catch something else.
Right. We also didn't do any fishing stuff, which we could have. There's a whole bunch of ways to do it. We didn't do it because the way you would do it in a survival situation is something that more than likely Florida Fish and Game would not be happy about.
Right.
So there are probably videos out there about that, but it's just not something I'm going to demonstrate. You don't want one of those Coast Guard SOS rations that are in the. They were in some of those pre-packed bags. You don't want one?
One of those hardtack biscuits?
Yeah.
No, I'm good.
You sure?
Chip a tooth. No, I'm joking.
Right.
I mean, you have to.
They're high calorie. They will keep you alive, but man, those are horrible.
Yeah, flavorless and dense. And also think whenever you're putting stuff in, you're not going for exercise. So if you do pack food, don't pack stuff like protein bars that are low carbohydrates and that are meant to keep you lean, or keto foods. I would steer clear of that. I'd look for high calorie foods that's going to propel you through the day,
Right.
instead of worrying about your figure.
Right.
But again, if you're in a pinch and that's all you have, stick it in the bag and go. All right. I think we're getting close to time. What do you think?
Sure.
About 10 minutes?
I mean, realistically, I'm pretty sure that stuff's probably safe to eat without cooking, but.
I'll stir it up again real quick. And then I'm going to pour my half into my cup and get the other half over here. Go, sir.
So, a quick recap. We covered food, water, fire, shelter, talked about knives, talked briefly about first aid kits. I have another video about first aid kits and the different types that exist, and maybe we can splice some of that in. Anything that you think we missed at all?
Not really. I'm saying for the kind of stuff you need to have in your bag. Again, not the exact brands, but what you need to survive, what you need to get by with. Again, if you're in one of these situations where you do have to bug out, or it is a SHTF situation, you may be able to find extra stuff you need along the way, but you need to have a good base to start with. And the 5 C's, you know.
What are the 5 C's?
Uh,
I don't use that acronym.
Okay. My bad. So you need like a canning device, which would be like a canteen or a bottle or something to put your water in. You would need a candling device, which would be like either a candle or a flashlight, something that can put out light for a long amount of time if you're not going to be able to start a fire or move with a fire. Then you are going to need something to start a fire with. You're going to need cordage for your shelter. You're going to need cover, which is your shelter. And then you need a cutting device. And usually you would add in a compass on that too. So, again, that's probably 6 C's, but.
Right. We didn't do any navigation stuff. We do. If people like this, you know, this is 101. If people like this, we may go out and do land nav and maybe even do like a little sear thing. Okay, so that concludes today's adventure. Hopefully you've picked up some new skills, or at least learned some new ways to do some things you already knew how to do in other ways. These are skills that everybody should know. You never know when there's going to be some kind of a disaster, some kind of incident that you're going to need to improvise with. And that's hopefully one of the things you learn the most when you're out camping or out in the woods, is how to improvise and how to create something from nothing. You don't have to prepare for the zombie apocalypse to have a basic skill set and how to survive. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good night.